We are live. All right. A couple minutes late, 6 minutes late. It took a while for the power to come back on. So we do not have a building-wide generator. We have battery backups for our critical things that we do. And unfortunately, the studio, although I feel as though it's critical, it is not cost-justified battery backups for an entire studio. I don't know whether or not the power will continue to go in and out, but it's certainly been a fun day today. So, also, completely related to this, Comcast, they have caused chaos for us today with the same thing. Their outages are just as intermittent as the power. So, Comcast denied there was a problem, and we let them know 3 clients within, half a mile of each other were all having the same outage. So we assumed, yeah. So those outages have been causing chaos for us, and our phone calls, and that was another message for someone that says thank you because we're back up essentially. So, yeah, it's been a fun.
We just started last Thursday. We all actually work at.
Oh, that's great. Now I got to turn my phone off too. People sending me too many things. There we go. All right, that's off. So it got to be a late start here. So I know. Don't pause. Look like I froze, staring at everything here, for sure. Yeah, so if the power goes out or I disappear suddenly, yeah, that's probably why. That seems like the most reason here. So, how do you secure Ethernets externally in a home? Yes, please put them on a separate Ethernet. That's definitely an attack vector. People climbing up on your house, people walking up to it and finding something they can just plug into. So definitely stop and think about that. Let's see. There we go. All right, back over here to the live stream. Playing with XCP-NG HA systems and some business talk. So I actually, other things that aren't on the battery backup happens to be the lab server. So the lab server went down. I pressed the power button to bring it back up. Well, we just unplugged it. The power was flickering, and we just said, well, let's unplug the lab server. So I'm going to find it right now and fire that up. So, XO lab server. Is it there? Is it running? Can we start it? Will it explode? And did it corrupt itself when it shut down improperly? Nope, it boots. Yay, booting. So the lab server is working so that we can actually talk about our Dell system that we have that we built, and it's going to be some fun talk on there. And while this is booting up and getting connected, and getting situated, actually I had tacos too, if you're wondering what that is. I got a drink of the water here. Hold on. Late lunch. Leads. I'm going to do a video just on lead generation, and when I mean lead generation, I just get a lot of people. One, I don't know why they email me. I have a contact form and I have a forum. If you email me, I don't reply with any more than my rate for consulting. And so those of you that have emailed me realize that's pretty much all the emails you get back from me because my email is for hiring me. If you want to say, hey, Tom, I liked your video on something, thank you, but that's filling my inbox up with those, especially some people who do it all the time, they just get blocked. I filtered out people who just send me, sorry if you're one of those people. I have people that email me news articles 3 times a day because they want me to cover a topic. So I just block them, and because I don't have time. Well, I filter. I put them into, I don't actually block people usually. I just put them into, maybe I'll read that later. And by the way, there's a lot of people in that box right now. I don't know. I don't have time to have someone email me because it compounds up. There's a lot of people, and I'm so happy to have many people, but that's why the forums to me are a place by which I can consolidate and control, and especially because a lot of them are things that other people may find interesting. So it's actually not just me. It's the benefit of the greater good that you post something in our forums where it can be discussed in an open manner. So that's one of the reasons I don't reply to a ton of emails. But related to that in lead generation is people seem to think there's some secret that they're going to find out when they start a business, oh, there's a site. There must be some magic secret pool of business that once I start a business, I become part of this inner pool once I know the right person and all the leads just flow to me, right? That's how it works. Because a lot of people start with, I hate my job. I'm going to start a business. Why does the boss make money? Why doesn't I get the entire cut of it? And they quickly start a business and learn lead generation is a massive part of business. If you don't have the leads, you may have the skills to perform the task, but if you don't have the business coming towards you, no one's going to ask you to perform said task. So there is no secrets to it. There are websites that do lead generation. I can throw out there at least the only one I can think of. I know there's more, but I don't use any of them, like Field Nation. But the problem we've always run into from a hiring standpoint, like from a company hiring us, is any of those sites, they want to hire us for 1 quarter what we usually charge, if not more. And I've had even people tell me, oh yeah, such and such site, they only want to pay me less than I made at my old job. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what they do. And the leads that come through there are frequently people shopping for the lowest price because they're trying to see how cheap they are. They're not the kind of, they're not long-term engagement clients. A lot of our marketing, and I have plenty of videos on this, are going out and getting in front of people, going out to Chamber of Commerce events or any other networking and business networking group events and making it happen. That's how we do lead generation on there. So that's a huge, thing that we do that a lot of people, I don't know, I get a ton of emails on it, especially lately. It seems like there's been more of them than usual, probably because I did a couple of those business videos about what it's like running a business. I did it with friends and those videos got popular and they immediately, what's the secret to getting leads? So I'll quit rambling about that. Hello from Turkey. Awesome. That's a far way away. Let's see. You are a good motivator. As I'm concerned, you thought some business tricks since I began to follow you. Awesome. Do I use multi-factor for UniFi? They don't have official support. Our UniFi controller isn't public facing. So you're asking a question wrong about what is better secure, a VLAN or a subnet. Subnets are different than, you have to have different subnets when you have a VLAN. So different networks would be an alternative to VLANs. They are more secure if they're physically different networks. There's less likely to VLAN hop over to another side. Any forum advice discussion about home server project? There's probably a bunch of them over there. But home server project is a pretty vague. Reddit Home Lab. I encourage people to spend a lot of time on Reddit. Reddit Home Lab is awesome for learning about how a lot of home lab stuff works. And check out Reddit self-hosted. I should do a video on what Reddits I actually wander around in because there's some good lists. I don't even have to do a video about it. You know what we can do? We can go to Reddit together because this question comes up a lot. So in this live stream, we just decided we're going over to Reddit. I'm going to go over to my tech. And we're going to go here. And these are some of the ones that I'm going to really recommend. So self-hosted is awesome. Cybersecurity is bad. I should unsubscribe. Computer text barely has anything useful in there. Useful scripts is actually really good though too. So self-hosted alternatives. And is HomeLab? Why isn't HomeLab in this one? Did it fall out? HomeLab is supposed to be in there. I was doing some changes. I probably broke it. There we go, Home Lab. So Reddit are, why didn't it show up? Just hit the plus. Why did it not go? There it is. But these couple Reddits, man, you can spend some time in here. You can learn a lot. There's a lot of people just post pictures of it. So, but they get tagged as such for people posting pictures in there, which is so cool. There's a lot of interesting things in there. I mean, this is kind of deep, some K8 blades here. We're making laptops into a home lab. Definitely cool. I never post in home lab because I feel like it'd be cheating to post in there, even though some of my stuff is technically probably relevant to home lab because I'm doing some basic demo stuff. I mean, I have a business, and so we're posting a lot of things different. Self-hosted is always kind of cool if you're looking for things you can host yourself, which also make for fun projects that you use. So you start by deciding your home lab, and then you build your project, something you find on there. And these are just kind of novel if you haven't been here to useful scripts. There's all kinds of scripts people post at Reddit are useful scripts that are just all kinds of fun stuff in here if you're interested in that. So that's definitely pretty cool. Whiskey Fun for how they got hacked. Thank you, George Moody. Awesome. So what do we got here? Hi from New York, UK. Awesome. Germany. Woohoo. Let's see here. Using XCP-NG in my home lab, installed an R710. I have another R710 not being used for a slower processor. Less than two servers have to be exactly the same to run HA. Oh, that's a good question. We'll talk about that in just a second. Thank you very much again. No, I'll just say it twice for the Whiskey Fun for how they got hacked. You can subscribe to that. Go to my main page. You can find how they got hacked. That's our Friday night show. We do it on the other channel. Let's see. Well, if you can create an account on UniFi, you can turn on multi-factor and use that for your local UniFi account. Is that not supported? It is. It's not officially supported. It's a hacky way to do it, but yes, you can do it that way. It's a weird way to do it. My son is in here saying don't smoke bees. So, Poland. Awesome. Where can I get cheap HD for the home lab? eBay. There's a lot of people talk on Home Lab about where to find cheap hardware deals all the time. What do you think about Brave and open source browser? Looks cool. I don't really have more an opinion other than looks cool. How dangerous do you think it is to leave IMM server in the open internet? I don't know. Depends on which one. Yeah. If you don't have to expose things, don't expose anything. Only expose OpenVPN. I did a series of OpenVPN videos to talk about ciphers and security, and that's a hugely important thing, that you only expose OpenVPN if that is possible and reasonable and feasible. That's the more preferred way to do it. But to the next question of, let's talk about our lackluster Dell cluster. So these are 3 Dell machines that we have in here. XCP-NG 1, 2, and 3. And this one is, how fast is this one? Does it have the processor? OptiPex 3020, 3010. They're close, but not exactly the same hardware. For HA to work, you have to have 3, not 2, but 3 servers for HA to work. There's your first problem with HA. And you need these 3 servers to be as close as possible. No processor, you can have a different speed processor, but you can't have, if you want it to work properly, a processor with different feature sets. That means if you're using an i5 8th generation, i7, or a Xeon, whichever generation it is, you want the other computer to be of the same generation to make HA work. That is important. The reason why, if I start a computer and it finds a processor with this feature set, whatever that feature set is, and then you go backwards to a previous generation processor and it doesn't have that feature set, I can't move a live VM between those computers. But you can start a process on a lower version feature set and move it over to something with higher, but until that server, that VM reboots, it doesn't get any access to those feature sets that are on there. So that's why they recommend, so you don't have to try and do the math on that. That's why it's highly recommended that you get a server that is identical, because then you don't have to think about it. You can just move things between them. Port knocking to expose. Port knocking is pretty neat too. Have you looked at Mesh Central versus ConnectWise? I remember vaguely looking at Mesh Central, but not anything in depth. ConnectWise Control blows me away with features. It's absolutely amazing, solid product. That's why we use it. I am scared to hand over to another company because this comes up all the time. What about this free product or this free product? And the reason being, what if that product got compromised? People are looking for holes in products all day long. If they find a hole in said product, and we have well over 1,000 computers in there, people then have 1,000 computers they can play with. That would be very, very bad and devastating. Therefore, I am hesitant to switch to some random new product because I know the people are testing all products out there and looking for vulnerabilities in them. I know ConnectWise Control is well funded and, knock on wood, has not had a compromise in their systems thus far, to my knowledge, that I am aware of, and they stay very up to date on their product, and it has been thoroughly tested. Trust me, we've even done testing with how it works. We've looked for edge cases on how to get things. We've spent our own time doing some application testing on it, and I know I am by far not like the best person at that particular task, but it's what keeps us with there. So far, we haven't even found an edge case with admin privileges that we have that will allow us. We found some interesting things that you can do with admin privileges, but we found out how they expire and how they can be leveraged. Maybe I'm going to do an updated review because the product has changed so much and they've added so many cool features to it. But yeah, there's a lot to Screen Connect, and it's a great product. Security is my first concern. Security is more the concern over price because, hey, whatever, cool, I saved a couple dollars. Oh, wait, my whole business got compromised and now I have no money at all because I can't afford it because the insurance companies go, that you use some crappy product and we're not even going to pay out the cyber insurance. So that's why I'm hesitant to switch. Oh, let's see. The PF sets people keep them coming. Kind of hard time to find Netgate hardware in Sweden, but I finally found a good supplier for a tech company. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I know some people have asked me about getting Netgate hardware outside the U.S. I just don't know. I don't have any easy answers on that particular product. Is there a vSAN alternative to XCP-NG except XOSAN? No, not really. I know they're working on a V2 of it. I have no idea when the release date is for it. XOSAN is, I feel as though they haven't really been developing as much. I don't know for sure. I haven't really used it. We usually do for when you want to do higher end storage is you're going to look at TrueNAS is one of the people I throw out there. TrueNAS is the enterprise version of FreeNAS that comes with HA failover. I've done a video on it. We're a partner if you're interested in looking at that product. It's expensive because it's awesome and it's very, very high end. So they make some really cool products. So yeah. Let's see. Would it be nice to start a course on PFSense? I kind of do. If you put them in a playlist, and there's a playlist, I guess that's a course on it. I haven't done, and because it's so late in the year, I may not. The last time I did a video was 2018. I did a whole start to finish with PFSense. I'm going to do a 2020 version probably because it's so late in the year. It'll be dated by the time I publish it. And the other problem is from 2018 to 2019, PFSense has changed very, very little. There's not a massive difference. So, does Joey's team provide great content along with the group over at How They Get Hacked? Awesome. Thank you very much, Hank, over at HLE Computer Consulting. Thank you very much, Hank, for a $25 donation. It will go in the whiskey jar. Enterprises don't care about security. Some don't, some do. That's the best way I could describe it. There are tons of companies that are not in the news because they care about security. That's awesome. That's amazing. They're not in the news. You don't know who they are. So yeah, that's one of those things. Like, it's not that all companies don't care, but there is certainly a number of them that don't. We're swinging around a company that we hope to land a deal with tomorrow that's been talking about. They've been a client of ours for 12 years, and they're just now thinking about managed services. Not that we haven't pitched it to them for the last 3 years. It's just taken until now to actually get them to be serious about it. I like to develop myself to the Purple team. What do you think of how long do these need to do in your fresh install with apprenticeship? I don't know. It all depends on how much time you put into it and where you end up. So back to the lackluster Dell cluster. Let's close all these tabs. XCP-NG cluster. I think I actually did videos on this. There we go. This is older. They have some good documentation, good write-up. The only thing is, this particular layout isn't relevant anymore. So I got to do an updated video because this is what it looks like now. It looks very different. We do have our 3 Dells inside of here. So this is the version 3. Just go back over to the pool. You see the little high availability enabled. So here are the, this one's currently master. This is how you switch who gets to be the master. Multipathing. Yeah, they're going to have to, I'll wait on that. They'll say that part for the videos. Let's just start something on the VMs. Let's go over here, VMs. Dell, dude. Debian on cluster. Now, you may notice that there's a few options here. So if we start on, we can start it on any one of the 3 hosts, or we can just let it pick. So let's pick XCP-NG 3 to start it on. So I know I want it to go to a known place. So now it's on that cluster. Now, one of the things that's important that you do here is go over, actually we'll do it this way too. So let's go over to settings. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Servers. We'll turn off the demo server. So there's only one pool in here. There we go. There you're not seeing. You can use an orchestra to connect to multiple pools simultaneously. I could connect to all the different pools we have in our building. I'm only going to connect to this particular pool that we call the Lackluster Dell cluster. So these are a bunch of old Dells. That's hence the name over there. So while that's starting over there. Yeah, you can see the studio screen. I don't have a third monitor hooked up to my this so I can see the chat. I probably should bring another monitor and set it next to me so I can just move the YouTube screen over, because when I'm in here, I only have my laptop. So, let's see. Center only runs Windows. Yep. Why don't, oh yeah. Zen Center only runs on Windows, and I don't care much for their. XCP-NG does, Zen Orchestra does so much more than the other tool. The other tool is very weak in my opinion. It's basic. It'll get the job done in the most basic way, and it doesn't have all the advanced features, for example, like all the backups and things like that. So being able to run all these different backups and all these features inside of here, this is all part of Zen Orchestra that's not part of XCP-NG. So when you take XCP-NG and Zen Orchestra, or XCP and XO, as a lot of times you see them labeled, you get such an extended feature set that you just don't get with the standard Zen Center software. Zen Center software is very, I don't dislike it, it just doesn't have a quarter of the features that this does. So all the advanced coordination things you want to do in here, like, well, for example, replications. There's no easy way to schedule replications on a regular schedule. That's actually handled by Zen Orchestra. You can do a replication with Zen Center, but you can't do a scheduled hourly replication data between 2 VMs without it, or regular scheduled backups. That's all facilitated via Zen Orchestra, which is why I like Zen Orchestra so much. People seem to complain it's not built in. That could be a problem for some people. For me, the fact that one Zen Orchestra install can manage all of my clusters, even ones that are at home, works great. You can have one session of Zen Orchestra running computers that aren't even here. So because of that, that's one of the other reasons I like it. It's extensible like that. Yeah, if Zen Orchestra were to go down, if I shut down Zen Orchestra and it is what's facilitating the backups, then yeah, the backups can't happen because Zen Orchestra is not kicking them off. So that's obviously a problem. But it's kind of, Zen Orchestra lives in our stack, in our main primary stack is where Zen Orchestra lives. So we have bigger problems. If Xen Orchestra goes down, it's probably because everything went down. But other than the backups, like when we update Xen Orchestra, whatever, the backups pause while I update Xen Orchestra, which usually only takes like 15, 20 minutes. So 15, 20 minutes. And I could, if I wanted to, keep 2 copies and alternate between them for the updates if I really was worried, because but 15 minutes of downtime on Xen Orchestra, it doesn't take any of our systems down. It just is the management, the orchestration of our systems. So not a big deal. And everything picks up where it left off, like backups going, hey, I didn't run while I was off. I'll run now. So what would you recommend to allocate RAM for Xeno? It doesn't take much. I think it's like 4 gigs of RAM, maybe 2 gigs is even fine. 4 seems good if you're running a lot of stuff in it. That's it. Couple cores, like 2 cores dedicated to it. It's not that heavy at all. Yeah, 2 gigs is probably plenty. We have 4 on ours, but I think I probably have more than I need. But I have a lot of RAM, so. Anyway, so here is our Dell cluster running on XCP3. So you see the lackluster Dell cluster, it's running on XCP-NG 3. Now let's migrate it. Now when they share the storage, this is the first important part, is when we go over here, and we're gonna go to our storages. There's our lackluster storage. They have to have a third-party storage. And someone's probably gonna point out HA Lizard, which has an option to run off of local storage and sync. Yes, there is a way to do it. The problem you have is called IOPS. And I had this discussion earlier with a client today because of the system they were using. They have a similar system that allows 3 servers to work in HA without having centralized storage. That's cool, except why was I doing there? What was my project with this client? Moving things that needed higher IOPS and things like that had to be moved to another server. Because if you try to do synchronous writes between several, let's say 3 HA or even 2 workstations in HA, and I have to get all the writes I do to a particular VM backed up and moved over at the rate they're occurring to the other side of the off server, so to speak, the one not running the VM live. That creates a massive bottleneck to keep in sync. So you end up with tons of I/O bottlenecks. That's why you have to have a central external shared storage. But then you're going, but Tom, isn't that shared storage the weak point? Why do you think we sell IX systems? It is the weak point. You have to then have something strong enough with redundancy built into it in order to keep that from being the weak point. So your redundant switches that connect between the 3 nodes to the 1 storage server, then you take the 2 switches and interpolate them between, and then you go a step further and you get a HA available storage system on the back end that can handle all the writes at high availability as well. So high availability works, but it has some challenges in it. So that's definitely a really an important aspect on there. What do you think about Epic versus Xeon? And because of the security advantage from the Epics are amazing. I'm pretty impressed with them. So I'm gonna go. It's absolutely great. Encryption disks. I'm not sure what someone's talking about there. It looks like it's not at me, anyways. So encrypt all your disks. Definitely do that. All right. Back over to the VM. So we have this. Let's migrate it over to XCP-NG 2. So we'll go over here to migrate. It's on 1. We'll just move it to 2. And we'll go look at the task. Okay, pool migrating. Now this is actually what's kind of cool. Even though these computers are not particularly fast, they're older Dell i5s, it will migrate reasonably fast because the only thing it's actually migrating right now is the memory in this particular computer. So while it's almost done, I probably won't even beat it. Oh, yep, it's already moved. So what did that take, like 10 seconds? We'll run something on it so we can show it moving. Now, for an HA demo, let me take a look here. All right, we moved it. Make sure it's in HA mode. It is. It's in HA restart mode. It is currently on XCP-NG 2. So what happens is if XCP-NG2 fails, it's going to make a decision to restart this server somewhere else, either on 1 or 2. That's how the HA systems work. So we see it up and running here, but because you can't synchronize the memory writes of a VM, because they're just happening at super high speed, to the other computers, the other devices in the cluster, this particular machine will down itself when they unplug it. So if I had the guys unplug it right now, it will simply lose this machine and restart. Matter of fact, I could probably just log into it and make it happen. So I was going to say I'd yell through the door to get them to unplug it because it's on the other side of the wall over there. But if they do, it'll take a minute for them to get going on there. So we shall SSH into XCP-NG2. Actually, can I do this? XSC. We'll make sure this is, so cool, this works. This is the XCP-NG2, it's running the virtual machine. We can go virtual machines. There's that one Dell that's running on there. Debian Dell on cluster, we'll quit. And I don't even think it'll move if I do that. I think it's going to down that system because it's not, or does it take the time to migrate? Oh, this is actually kind of cool. It auto migrates. That's neat. So if I shut it down, it does an auto migration over to where it needs to go. And it went back over to 1. That's pretty cool. I hadn't tested that before. I haven't done the video on this yet, so I'm just doing some of the testing on it. I usually, because I know I'm doing a shutdown, I usually manually move them over. But you can see that that kept the system up and running just like it was supposed to. So there's your HA on that. Bill Daughtery, thank you very much. Thank you for all the help with the tutorials. Thank you for the $20 donation. Awesome. Do you know if it's been discussed adding LXC capabilities? I have no idea if they do. You can run Docker on XCP-NG. There's a whole thing on running Docker in there. I've never checked LXC though. Switch between scenes and using recording. That is a Stream Deck Mini. Here, actually, I'll do that real quick. So it's just a little Stream Deck, and it allows me to do this. So I can cut between my computer and that. Set up, yeah, encrypt everything. I see you guys talk about encryption. I mean, I think I missed part of the conversation. We recommend highly that you encrypt everything when it comes to, I seen lawyers in there, law offices, anyone medical, any information. Even myself, my laptop is always encrypted from boot. Needs a password from the time you turn this thing on before it does it. So definitely important. All right. There we go. Yeah. Encrypt all the things. That's what's important. And there's really modern computers, just that's not an issue to encrypt things on them. They're so fast, it's not really an overhead problem at all. In case anyone was wondering.
Thank you.
That should work.
Put that on camera.
Oh, it's not. It's off camera. That's
good.
I knew my arm is out of camera.
Okay.
They needed my credit card for a new account we're setting up. Full disk encryption is the only way. I never even bother with file level encryption. With all of our, we BitLocker our computers, so it needs a password on boot for, the full encryption. So BitLocker's awesome. And if you're running Linux like I am, it's absolutely easy. Linux makes it so simple just to do full encryption. It's not even difficult to do. It's just like, oh yeah, it's just part of the install with Pop! OS. You just pop it in there. So, and it doesn't make any real difference on speed. You want to start playing with Linux? There's nothing. It's a different methodology. Linux versus Windows. There's a lot of people that have done some good videos on this, and it's just a different methodology. It works different than Windows, but it's not that hard to learn, especially because we do so much of our stuff in the browser. I kind of like Pop! OS. Pop! OS, because it uses GNOME, and which is just, it's Ubuntu. The fact that I can find applications relatively quickly is one of the reasons I really like it. But yeah, it's a different way to learn. Pull up an example here. So let me put it back on the right screen here. If I wanted to launch GIMP, you just start typing and it just finds the applications you're looking for. So that people looking for a start bar, yeah, you're very lost on this. I guess KDE might be a solution, or take a look at Elementary OS. Like their namesake, Elementary OS has a more Windows feel to it. But you look at some of the big distributions out there, and you look at GNOME, for example, that is a common default desktop for Linux that comes with Ubuntu. You're going to find excellent overall support, answers to your questions, and things like that. So it's not too hard to learn once you learn where the applications are. Also, I guess some people have a problem with the fact there's no minimize button. I forgot about minimize buttons because I'm used to never thinking about them. But yeah, I guess it's a concern. But when you start doing things like multiple desktops, that's why you don't think about it. So when you can just go here and I can just have a whole nother desktop, why would I need a minimize? I just move things to other desktops. Matter of fact, you can even take things and move them over to another desktop. So you can actually, just say move always visible or move to workspace down. And now when we go here, we have workspace. And what happens when you create a workspace down? You get another workspace. So you have all these different workspaces where you have things going. And let's say we open up a couple different things over here, like let's put GIMP over here. Or let's put Firefox over here too. So this workspace has all the Firefox things we're working on. Here's you guys on YouTube and the Dell things we're working on. Once you kind of get used to a different concept of workflow, you kind of get used to it very quickly. So you could start with something else, but to me, this is a very easy to use workflow for doing things. So it doesn't, once you use it, people are like, oh, wow, you're fast at it. I'm like, it's just one of those, it's a natural flow of things. And how often do us as technicians end up doing where we work on multiple things? This has been the way it's handled in GNOME and the Linux world for years. So when we see Windows getting features like workspaces, we're like, oh, cool, that's been a great feature for the last 10 years. Welcome to the club. Can you encrypt an already installed Linux OS? No. The Linux encryption, I could be wrong, but I don't think so is the answer. I always do it on install. So you may have to reinstall it to get it properly encrypted because it sets it up a lot different when you do it that way. So I don't think you can. You have to do it from the rip. Yep, someone right there. I don't like because there's no minimize and maximize buttons in Pop! OS. I've never thought about the whole what do you call it? Not having minimize buttons. By the way, if you want to know how you minimize things in Pop! OS, there's a way to turn them on. You can, I think GNOME Tweak lets you turn them back on. Here's Mozilla maximized. Here's Mozilla not maximized. Tap tap, tap tap, and away we go. I don't think about this. I rarely, it depends on the application. I want my browser maximized. I want Chrome maximized. I want this not maximized. But if I do need it maximized, when I do videos, for example, you're going to find that. So all kinds of fun stuff. All right. So once you get used to using it. Now, what's my thought on TPM versus what do you call it? Using a passphrase. I'm fine with just using a passphrase. That's not a problem at all. So, yeah, not a big deal there. Let's see, what else we got here? Yeah, you encrypt while you do the install process. That's the way I would describe that. I'm trying to follow. Sorry, I'm catching up on all your questions. Oh, the prompt. The code for the prompt. Yeah, that's over on GitHub. I'll actually drop a link to that. So that's right here, GitHub. Okay, yep. How much nodes you install with XCP clients? I don't understand that as a question. How many clients do we have that run XCP-NG? Well, a lot of consulting clients, more than some of the small business clients. We don't always run it, but the consulting ones do. Hopefully that's helpful there. Let's see. What do we got here? So this system's running, and as you can see, so let's take and migrate it again over to XCP-NG 3. So it's somewhere else. And I'm going to have the guys just unplug it, and I'll show you what happens when it just gets, pull the plug. You know, hard fail, terrible fail. Though, you know, the computer just completely dies. And that's obviously one of the things that HA is really good for, is that. Now first, here it is. Now running on. It's going to refresh the console here. Refresh the page. It'll take a second. There you go. Now, the mode it's in is HA and restart versus not being on any HA. You don't have to have all your VMs on HA. But what it's going to do when 3 here stops, it's going to restart it somewhere else. So right now we see this on XCP-NG on the lackluster Dell cluster, and let's go through the fail. We are not listening, we're killing a computer. So, hey, if my staff is listening, can you go unplug the, oh crap. I realized I wasn't, thank you. Rotate screen, all right. So let's talk about this again. I didn't realize I didn't move the screen back. I was looking down at the screen and I forgot to press the button. Anyways, so the Dell cluster right here, it's migrated. It was over on 1 when we restarted 2, so now it's on 3. And right now I'll show you that all of these hosts, 1, 2, and 3 are all up and running. So, all right. Kyle, can you unplug 3? So please unplug. Plug XCP-NG Dell number 3. So let's see if they do that over there. They're going to go ahead and shut it down, break it, make it die. So let's go over here. So there's 3. There's the VM. The VM's running on 3. We see it here. Now that I'm on the right screen, you see it's running on 3 at the top here. We can see that I just have HTOP going. It's really not doing much. It's just kind of hanging out here. And Kyle's going to get that message and let's see if he acknowledged it yet. He did not. I can always ring his phone too. So what did he send me a message back about? Oh, order confirmation. Come get it. Awesome. See if for pre-motions. There we go. 3 is dead now. Perfect. That's what we were looking for. So 3 is dead. So it's going to take a second. This is the piece. So it still shows up here. But if I actually go and try to do something with it, the console doesn't do anything. It's just kind of hanging out here. No stats. No nothing. It's just kind of hanging out dead. Logs. Host failed. Server XCP-NG is failed. Oh, that's exciting. So let's look at the host again. It'll disappear out of here. It takes a second to disappear because it's doing its magic and really confirming it's dead before it restarts the host somewhere else. So we'll have to wait a second for that to happen. So if we go to the VMs, it thinks this is running, but don't worry, I can tell you it's not. So it's just kind of going to chill out here for a second because it's not doing anything. Now, HA does not mean absolutely start immediately, by the way. HA takes time. So it's going to take a second before it starts up and moves over to one of the other nodes that it can find that are alive. Hey, look, it found itself on 2. So there was probably, I didn't time that. I'm going to do a timer when I probably do the video, but it's just like at 15, 20 seconds that it confirms it's all dead. And these are things that I know there's some fine tuning that can be done, but it's up and running now here and rebooted on XCP-NG 2. If we look at the hosts, we only have 1 and 2, and away you go. Now, one of the challenges is if you kill the master. If you kill the master, it still can do the HA, but it then has to also pick a new master, and it will elect a new master. I think I have that configured right. I got to run through my configuration and make sure. But that's another option in there is the have it auto-configuring to grab another master when that occurs. So I have a video comparison from XCP-NG. Can you say in short what you prefer in security? I just like Xen Orchestra. I don't think either one of them have a better or worse security stack. Both of them seem to be solid, secure products. I think when it comes to scalability, XCP-NG scales up bigger, but that's about it. So, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to, look up split brain problem when you have only 2 servers. That's one of the challenges you run into. Yeah, 3 is easy because you solve the split brain problem. Google that because it's there. So, show logs about server dying. I think they're going to be under the pool. Yeah, where does it log it at? Or is it under settings? I don't have a lot of logging turned on, so that's also, I have no notices turned on, for example, because this is all my demo system. Host offline, there we go. So, yep. Yeah, 423. So that's, it's still giving me that error. I have all these errors don't send to me. I have all this set to stay here and not send because this is our lab server. I don't have time for every time something gets rebooted on a lab server to give me notices. So, yep, host offline. These are the emails it'd be sending me and let me know that it's offline and I should do something about it. And these can be fine-tuned. I just don't. But you kind of get the idea of how it works. And by the way, Kyle, if you're listening, if you want to plug in the server, so plug in server. Do you host XCP on a flash drive or a local SSD? Varies, depends on the setup. A lot of times we're building them on, like our commercial installs are built on Dell servers, and the load of XCP-NG itself is just part of the larger Dell RAID array. So we'll put in a whole large array of drives that may be in a RAID 10 configuration for a client, and we'll load XCP within that pool and dedicate the rest to storage if it's a single server. If they're not using any external storage. A lot of times they aren't. It's one physical server. Matter of fact, most of how we run it here is one physical server on our XCP-NG. And then we don't use it in HA mode. They're in a pool, a resource pool, but they're not in HA because I don't need it. If, for some reason, one of the servers were to die, we're taking server A, Xenifer. There's a picture of Xenifer on our website as we refer to it. So we have like a node 1, node 2 in the Xenifer stack. And what it does is it replicates the data over to the other machine. So I could fire up the server if it died. So if main server dies, the data is being replicated on the other server. We could just press start on the VM and it will start that. I did a video on that. That's my preferred method because it's actually, I mean, HA is awesome when you have a large environment. But from a standpoint of like customer usage, setting up a half-hour replication, not too taxing on the server, or even an hourly replication, and then their server is never more than 1 hour behind. If it flashes, is there anything to lower the amount of writes flash drive? It doesn't write a ton to the flash drive. If you use external logging, it writes even less. There's not an absolute ton of writes going on. I mean, there's some logs. So take that for what it's worth. That can be the danger of running on a flash drive is, well, all the logs writing to it. So you may want to consider writing it to something that's like an SSD or something that can handle the writes, or just mounting something else for the logs. I mean, you can get real tricky with it, but that is a concern, obviously. So if you just stick it on a flash drives do have a more limited life compared to an SSD or anything else. And honestly, even if you put it on a spinning drive, once it boots, it just kind of hangs out. It doesn't need to be a real fast or a very large drive because it only has to have enough for DOM 0. So it's not a ton to keep XCP-NG running on there. IT streaming in action, yeah. Yeah, RAM drive, dump it time to time. There's, like I said, there's tricky, you can do things like that. Carve out more memory, put it into a RAM drive, keep the logs there. Turn off logging, force all logging to go to an external syslog server. That could even be a VM within it, so all the logs get dumped somewhere else. Do I recommend Mikrotik? No, I don't recommend Mikrotik. They're just not great. They're cheap. That's what they are. They're inexpensive. They have complicated configurations, convoluted documentation, but you get a good price. So people who know them love them because they've taken the time to learn them, and they're going, I know how to do it. I'm like, awesome, great, have at it. So glad you know it so well. Hold on, what do we got now? Whoops, can't do that. Switch between too many things there. Is there any issue time running your domain controller members all virtualized? Nope, not at all. Run them virtualized if you want. Not a big deal. Not a problem there. So let me see what was over here. I switched for a second. Oh, yeah, nothing. I accidentally showed my email, but it doesn't show anyone's email address, so not a big deal. I'm not really worried about it. It's got names in there, but that's not really a big deal. Hardly worried about that. PC engines, those are pretty cool. The APUs, I seen someone mention that, so not a big deal. All right. What else we got here? Does the cluster back up? Actually, we'll show you because it auto recovers. We'll go over here. Hosts. Lackluster Dell cluster. Actually, we'll look at the pool. And they're all back. All the hosts are back up and running. So it's still living on XCP-NG2. You can tell these don't have a lot of RAM in them. These only have 8 gigs RAM. This is not the ideal to make a cluster off. This is just something to play with to get set up. But now that it's all working, we can migrate it back around to wherever we want. So let's move it back over to 3 where it used to be. And it's amazing how fast it moves because all it has to do is sync up the memory and say, move on over because the storage is shared so the writes can continue to happen over on the storage. And you're watching it live, migration 10, 64, 68. It's a percentage, not a timer, so it doesn't go. Now it's doing a cleanup. There we go. It is now migrated over back to XCP version on the host number 3. So now host 3, go to hosts, or actually VMs, and there it is. away we go. Now, interestingly, I just noticed this. It'll take a second before the resources get freed up on here. So we're using resources, but not using resources. Let's move it again. So we'll go over here to VMs. Let's move it to 1. How long does it take to get those resources freed up? So let's move it back over to 1 now. So it's migrating. We'll see how quick those resources come up. It'll take a sec. Well, it's doing that. So let's see. What do I recommend instead of Mikrotik? I like pfSense. Some of the UniFi Edge or UniFi equipment's nice. There's a lot of good routing. I guess it depends on what is the ask specifically. If you're talking about routing, pfSense to me is way better than Mikrotik. And if you go, I don't like any of the NetGate hardware, you can always build it yourself. It's not a bad idea. You know, play around, learn hardware. Is there a video on installing Xen or free open source version that's not paid? I have numerous ones on installing it, more than one. Have you tried meshing and ALAC IRs only? Is it stable? I don't know what that is. Do we mesh? If you're referring to the UniFi products, yes, we've meshed them, and yes, they're stable. Yes, ZFS is experimental. Is it safe to use? Yeah, you can. You're doing it all from the command line for the ZFS management. You can manage it as a storage pool within Xen Orchestra, but the creation and management of ZFS is still done from the command line. So, for example, if something occurs and your ZFS pool fails, your ZFS pool fails. You don't get to find out unless you have some type of monitoring mechanism that you set up. If you have to resilver a drive in your ZFS pool, you have to, from the command line, resilver a drive and replace it, et cetera, et cetera. So beta refers to the fact that there's no interface to manage it. So take that for what it's worth. I switched to pfSense, initially virtualized, and now I have a 3100. The 3100s are great. Small space outside, get the outdoor Wi-Fi from UniFi. They make I think the thing's like 99 bucks. So that's definitely great. Can't afford a 10 gig UniFi switch. They're not cheap. There's no doubt about that. There are some used 10 gig switches you can find on the internet for some reasonable prices, eBay and places like that. So if you're just doing it for yourself, great. They work rather well. Yeah, I did a whole video on meshing with, we meshed between 3 cars. So we wanted to prove that the UniFi mesh worked really well. It was kind of fun. You should wear a shirt that says no Mikrotik. That's a great idea. That is our next shirt. No, I don't use Mikrotik. Thanks for asking. Is it safe to run a firewall in XCP-NG? It's safe if you set it up right. It's as safe as when you not run it in XCP-NG. Configuration is the important part. Thinking about a firewall, you have to take one of the network interfaces on a virtualized interface and expose it. I don't recommend that interface be shared with other devices, so you should probably dedicate a network interface publicly facing on the WAN side. So, yeah, it can be done. It takes some thought to do it securely, and we've seen plenty of people put zero thought into it and do it insecurely. So I think you're opening yourself up if you're not sure how to do it. You're opening yourself up to more security problems because you don't know how to do it, but in itself is security. So it's not insecure by nature. It's insecure because whether or not you know how to do it. That's the best way best way to describe that. Can I recommend an HTPC with 2 gigabit ports? Honestly, the SG1100 is, if you have less than a 700 meg internet connection, that thing's it's the cheapest thing you can buy at 179 bucks that will run pfSense and run it well at speed. So Yeah, Mikrotik has some cheap 10 gig switches. That's a no. I mean, it kind of depends on use case. I don't have a use case for them. Like if I'm building, if my goal was to build the cheapest home lab possible, yes, I need something really inexpensive. The Mikrotik 10 gigs, hands down, they got a killer price on them. That's it. I mean, but do I want to use them in enterprise? For us, we need to be able to monitor and manage and have visibility into switches. They're not necessarily set it and forget it. So we like some of the UniFi so we can manage all of our client switches. So there's different use cases. But the 10 gig switch, that 4-port one, which was out of stock for a while, I think it's kind of back in stock. That was a cool one. Chris did a review on it over at Crosstalk Solutions, and Craft Computing did a review of it. That's a good 10 gig switch that was like, I think when it was on sale, it was like $130. That's a killer price for a 10 gig SFP switch. VLAN configuration is painful. Yeah, I mean, but they're difficult to configure, but if you're not configuring them often, they're pretty cool. SolarWinds versus the Screen Connect. Screen Connect just has more features. SolarWinds does have has a tool that allows us to remotely connect to clients. Hands down, Screen Connect has way more features. XCP-NG software encryption RAID solution. No, it doesn't. You don't encrypt it. That's not where you encrypt the VMs that live inside of it, not XCP-NG. Wrong layer. So I don't recommend encrypting it because for example, we don't encrypt our XCP-NG, but the VMs that live on it have encryption. Yeah, the CSR 305. They got some neat looking hardware over at the those folks at, what are they? How much is this one? There you go. $130. It's a neat little box. It's got the 10 gig SFPs on there. Only one, this is gigabit though, by the way. This is 10 gig is only the SFPs, but this is only a gigabit port. So for example, if you wanted to connect your computer to a storage box, you're going to have to get an SFP card in your computer plugged into this, and then the storage box plugs into this because it doesn't have 10 gig RJ45. I can't wait till 10 gig RJ45 gets cheaper, but that's not here in 2019. Maybe next year we'll see some less expensive. We're seeing cheaper SFP plus, but just not to the same price points down, which is a shame, but hey, we'll get there. Why don't you encrypt at the hypervisor and the VM level? That would be redundant. I mean, I guess you could. Why don't you have 6 firewalls instead of 1? Because just in case, get 6 different brand firewalls and put them all in front of each other. That way, anything that got through any of the UTM, they all have to be UTM. And that way, anything that got through this UTM didn't get through this one. And make sure they're all using different UTM feeds. And then wrap your stuff in tinfoil. So I'm not trying to be a smartass, but there comes a point of diminishing returns where what is the value add? If the VM's encrypted with solid encryption, why would I then go a step further and also encrypt everything on the servers? You're making the servers harder to manage. Actually, the bigger risk is, and this happens to many companies, they don't encrypt the VMs, and then they back the VMs up. And then someone finds the backups, and then they open them up and run them, and they get their data. This is, when we covered a breach last week, this was similar to what happened, was they got some backup data, and it was unencrypted. So because the unencrypted VMs, that's where you want the VMs to be encrypted. That way, if anyone tries to open your backups, for example, when you're doing snapshots and images, and you want to take those snapshots and images of VMs, whether you're using VMware, whether you're using XCP-NG or whatever your choice is, and you export them to some type of file that you want to move to a drive, you want those when you put them in somewhere else to have passwords to be opened. If not, I put them onto a thumb drive and someone wanders off the thumb drive. They have my unencrypted VMs, and that would be tragic. So that's the important of why you want to encrypt the VMs. Yeah, then you're running Cubes OS. You're not wrong. Just go for Cubes. All you need is Cat 6. Cat 6 does 10G RJ45 up to about 100 feet, I think. Maybe less. No, I'm sorry, 35 feet. It's pretty short distance. Cat 6A will go full distance at 10 gig. I have a whole video where we talked to an engineer about that. So if you don't believe me, he's the guy that wrote the standard for Cat 6A, literally. So he was part of that guy. He was part of it. So it's an in-depth interview. That's really fun. How do the VMs boot if they are encrypted? Does XCP? No, you do that differently. There's a lot of different methodologies to set it up. It doesn't provide an encrypted TPM. You would do it, for example, with some type of server that also runs that provides decryption keys. That's a popular way to do it. Or you type the password in every time you reboot them. You go to the VM console and you unlock them so they boot. Never used Spider Oak. I've heard of it, never used it. What do you prefer as backup solutions? Well, we've been at Solarwinds house for a while, but we're migrating to Cloudberry. We have too many clients with too much data, and Cloudberry is a better fit for them, and so we're moving more systems over to the Cloudberry dashboard. I'll be doing a video on that soon. If you're running it in your home, you don't need Cat 6a. Cat 6 will run most length of, depending on your home lab setup, Cat 6 will run 10 gig without a problem. 40 gig possible, yeah, but you have to have the network card to support it. So, you know, capable of carrying the data, you have to buy the cards that support the transfer speed. That's where the hang up really is. Yep, manually, you're right. It will manually, it's a challenge. That's something that you kind of have to deal with on those. So manually typing in the password on an HA setup. You're not wrong. That's why if you did it where you set up an authentication server that it reached out to load the decryption keys, that's different ways to do it. Yeah, and that's the challenge. SolarWinds is expensive when you overrun on storage. We haven't signed up for Wasabi yet. We're testing Wasabi. We don't have any customers on it. Backblaze right now, but Wasabi is the next one on the list. Wasabi's got some really killer pricing for storage. Wasabi Hot Cloud. So, yeah, if you haven't looked at Wasabi Hot Cloud, they're really interesting. So, they have a really simple pricing model. So, what if you download more? See, they don't have egress fees. So one of the challenges is some of these other companies, like if you store things in AWS, one of the problems is getting the data back out. When you pull the data out, it gets to be a lot more money. So this is, 500 terabytes, $35,000 a year. Let's say we only have, I don't know. Let's go down to like 64 terabytes of customer stuff to back up. It's interesting how much it will cost you. Just at first, let's say you don't have to restore anything. 4,000 versus 16,000, so it's really 1/4 the price of AWS. So that makes a substantial price savings difference when it comes to doing that. So I've heard good things about the recovery speed. That's some of our next test. They want a 1 terabyte minimum. Well, that's fine. We have one client that has. What are they? They're at 4.5 terabytes, one single client. And we have a few of them that are up there in that same range. SolarWinds is becoming an overage problem for us. Yeah, the SolarWinds will go ahead and stay with SolarWinds. The RMM tool is fine. The backups have not been bad, but yeah. So Yeah. So overall, all the testing we've done, yeah, 1 terabyte minimum is so cheap. That's very true. Yeah, $6 is a cup of coffee a month. Not even a good cup, man. Coffee's expensive. How do you keep all your users, all your servers in sync? I guess I need expansion of that question. There's only a handful of. There's like 8 people here, so it's not really a challenge. AWS Deep Glacier is awesome price. Yes. So the other thing that comes as a thought is creating what they call immutable backups on another server. That other server might be something like Glacier. So maybe even for long-term storage, for clients that need long-term snapshots of stuff, they go, I don't think we'll need this, but I want to archive it somewhere besides our building. Glacier might be an option. The thing with Glacier is it has really slow restore and high egress fee. So you can get a lot of data into Glacier and hold it there for really cheap, but you spend a lot of money. And if you have to pull a lot of data out, you could spend a fortune pulling it all back out. So you just have to keep that in mind, that access to your data, the egress, as they call it, the egress fee is going to be expensive in Glacier. Yeah, in Glacier, by its name, it's not called Glacier because it's hot. It's called Glacier Cold Storage. It's a play on words. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. So if you have something that you need, but you don't need it now, Glacier's a cheap place to have it. It's, not the casual restore. It's just so you have, as a matter of fact, this is becoming popular, cloud-to-cloud backups. So having an extra place to say it, maybe it's one of those things like you want to have another cloud backup. Let's say you're hosting things in a server locally, or you're hosting things in the cloud somewhere like a DigitalOcean droplet, but you're going, I'd really like to have a snapshot of what my database looked like once a month and moved over to a Glacier account that I probably won't need to access, but in case for some weird historical reason we need data, we'll put it there. But it's extremely low or unlikely because we always have local backups that also go to some other place for a hot backup. So it's part of a 3-way backup strategy, because backing up things in the cloud becomes not necessarily more complicated, but you have to have methodologies. Here, it's easy. I have a copy here, and I take that copy and I can put it on a local device, and then I can back it up to the cloud. So I've got a local device copy, I have the live data, and then I have the cloud data. But when you're doing it already in one cloud, you kind of want another geographic cloud in case there's a problem where it's also stored for that. And then you want an immutable something like Glacier, so you have, so to speak, a separate account that you log into that you basically have write only, no read, no delete permissions to, or immutable, as they call it, immutable buckets, to I can put data in them, but I cannot delete the data from them. We like Backblaze B2, but the pricing is less because you pay for egress. Yes, that is where it can be a challenge. Yeah, G Drive with fake EDU. I mean, if you try to hack cheap storage like that, there's options out there. Linus did a neat video on it. One of the things Linus did on his channel was come up with a way to stream a bunch of data and find the limits of what you could do with uploading things to the Google Unlimited plans. It's novel. It works, but yeah. It's kind of neat. Were there any other Zen Orchestra questions? Yeah, like I said, there's ways to hack around and figure out how to get more data in the Google Cloud system. It's novel. We don't look at it from that. I mean, there's 2 different mindsets I have. There's stuff I might do for a hobby for home, but I can't come up with hacky ways to try to get things stuffed into Google accounts to back up my clients. We need their businesses that pay us to come up with practical and reasonable plans that are cost effective for all their data. So it's kind of a things you need to do because you're playing around as a hobbyist versus things you need to do as a business because you go, hey, these people have really important data they all need backed up. So that's definitely important. I just need to start dropping stuff. You know, will people just send me stuff so I can drop it? What for? So let's demo this camera, this G4 Pro, and be like Linus. Just drop things on the table. Empty box, so much less exciting. Does this have anything in it? Probably not. Empty box as well. It's just got some of the mount hardware in it. Linus drop tips coming to you, brought to you today by some VPN company. What's my take on the 60 gigahertz stuff? Haven't looked at it, no opinion. Launch drop systems. Xen Orchestra have encrypted backups integrated with cloud? Not really, no. You have to roll your own. Well, you don't roll your own. You back up in Xen Orchestra. So, settings, servers. Actually, we got to connect this one back. So here's the Windows Lab. When you set the backups up, and I have a whole video on the backups, it doesn't encrypt them. It doesn't take care of that section. Like I said before, ideally, you'd want the VM itself to be encrypted. Of course, like someone pointed out, yeah, if you encrypt the VM, then it requires a password. Then I have to type the password in HA. Pick your poison. You know, there's not any one plan fits all, solves both problems at once. Security and convenience don't go hand in hand. It's inconvenient for you. It is greatly inconvenient for bad actors who would like to get at your data when you do these things. So when you're looking at any of these, backup plans or anything like that, it's cool, but yeah, there's only so much you can do. You either encrypt it. I mean, matter of fact, Tom's Parrot. Actually, we'll go here and we'll pull up the Parrot. We'll just hit. Yep, we'll start that. It's going to go here. Hey, Eric, can you do me a favor?
What's up?
I am all out of water.
Hey, I was actually just going to bring some water.
So whenever I boot Parrot Linux up here, it's going to take a second because it's got a low grub, but it's going to ask me for a password. Have I used Synology Active Backup? Yeah, it works good too. We sell Synologies and they offer their nice backup service. I definitely like that. Do you not use Freenas backend storage and replicate that? We do. It depends on the use case. We've got people we set up using it. It's not what we're using here because we don't need it. It's overkill. I mean, my Freenas is replicated, but it's just not what I do for my XCP-NG storage. It's not necessary. We have a bunch of 15K drives and some Dell R710s that run our systems. They're quite fast and get the job done. We haven't even bothered switching to SSDs because our IOPS are so low, it just doesn't really... It doesn't warrant it. One day maybe I'll spend a bunch of money on it, but it just doesn't feel it. So, yep. Do I feel there's issues with KDE in Parrot? I guess. Hey, look, it wants me to unlock my system. So let's unlock my system. Now it boots. Crypt 5 set up successfully. Crypt setup XVDA5. So now it boots. This just one of those things. Now, all my lab stuff, here, let's switch over to my other lab. We have a few of them. We'll switch over to this lab. These things live on, where's it at? Yeah. Oh, I took it out of here. Oh, it's in there. There we go. Yeah, because there's Tom's Parrot. There we go. Anyways. I don't know what it's doing. It's thinking. Or it's stuck. Oh, it's booting. Anyways, if you were to look at our systems that, and let's filter this for production. Please note the lack of usage going on here. Here's our invoicing system not doing anything. Let's look at the stats. Sometime today, well, let's look in the last 2 hours, or last day, last 24 hours. 0% CPU. At some point, we used up to 1.6 gigs of RAM, and our disk peaked out at 44 kilobits. Wow. Okay. Admittedly, if we were to look at this one, this is the most heavily used VM. Let's look what that looks like for the last day. Well, we managed to break 4% there, so it was getting hectic. This is some network traffic from things that we were doing. Yep. We mega network traffic for some things we pushed. Yeah. Then same thing, kilobits of disk throughput. So almost nothing. And when you look at it from a more closely last 2 hours, as I know they're doing support where you get a little bit more grained in here, you're still seeing and more network traffic based on, you know, how busy we were and things the guys had going on. Same thing. Look at our disk throughput. It's just nothing. So when people ask why we're not running some huge servers, that's all the processing power it took to get these HA things running. Yes, the latest Parrot kernel is full of ACPI laptop issues. Something is scary posted in, yeah, Invoice Ninja's doing nothing. I prefer Zen Orchestra. So someone said something scary in my Discord server. So I won't pull it up here because it could be that it's something not safe for work. Let's look. What terrible or tragic thing did someone just post? Oh, yeah. Good times. Cool. I can show this on here. All right, now I'm caught up. Sorry. So this is when Tom's buffering. Oh, man. Very high IOPS. Yeah, there's the IOPS we're seeing on our stuff is just so minimal on there. Matter of fact, let's actually go. The better thing is cumulatively, how does this run? And we can go over here. We're going to go to storage, and we're going to look at the Zen local storage, and we can look at the stats on here. We're not even breaking 1,000 IOPS here. So we're looking 900 IOPS. So here. Yeah. You got to get the idea, though. There's really not a lot going on here. I/O wait time is kept low. Really, really low. And let's even look at it for the last week, for example. These are what backups look like. When I ran our backup, and I/O wait time went up probably when we ran a backup. That's about it. Yeah. It just doesn't take much to run any of this. So that's why we don't have a whole big high-end stack back there, because it's just, why would I do it? So whole other thing, we don't run any Windows back there. If you notice, there's no Windows servers. We have no Windows servers here to run our company. A broadband war. That sounds like a great war. When you go all the way down to $37 for a gigabit connection, that sounds like a pretty awesome deal. It's definitely easy to destroy VMs. That's for sure. So be careful when you destroy them. Actually, did my Parrot ever boot? I haven't booted in a while because I haven't used it in a while. I've been busy and haven't done anything with it. Hey, look, Parrot. So now I can update Parrot. Seeing as I booted it up, I guess I'll update it. This will actually chew up some drive time because it hasn't been on, and I don't know when. Does it tell me? So yeah, it hasn't been on in 3 weeks. So 19 days ago, it's almost 3 weeks ago was the last time I started it. So it's gonna need a lot of updates. So we're gonna update the Parrot. Actually, I think it's. There we go. Okay, it's going to do its magic for a while. And then, of course, we can go to the stats page, and it's actually going to have a little bit of usage. What did I forget where I even have this set up at. Oh, it's on NFS share. So it's going to pull a bunch of CPU, a bunch of data, and get back to updating. You just call Screen Connect and tell me you'd like to buy a self-hosted version of Screen Connect. Watching Ubuntu server install on an encrypted RAID is like watching paint peel. I don't know why. Is there a limit to the self-hosted version? Yes. You buy how many licenses based on the number of tech. I don't even know what it's cost now. What does that... and I don't know what it costs anymore. They took the price off. If you use the way back when machine, it used to sell for like $2,000 or $3,000. That's when we bought it. I don't know what it goes for now. They've removed it because they want you to buy their self-hosted version of it, so, or their hosted version, not the self-hosted. So I don't. Yeah, 2K-ish. Okay, so it sounds like they're maybe the same price. They changed it to you have to call them to find out the price. So I don't know. We pay a reasonable license fee every year for it, and I don't remember what that reasonable number was, and we got a deal and bought a couple years ahead for a discount. So I don't remember what I paid. I'd have to really do some digging. But I've been babbling on. Is there anything else people want to know? I covered the topics I was going to cover. We even killed a server and did an HA and a failover with our lackluster Dell cluster. Oh, this is a VM that actually uses a lot of... Here, this VM uses a lot of network because this is our camera server. So this is the one that uses a lot. It uses very little disk. And this is that argument I've had with people before of they're complaining because XCP-NG only supports like 2 terabyte data storage. And I'm like, why would you want one bigger? You don't, because of IOPS reasons, you don't store your data inside of a VM. You use the VM to manage the operating system, and then you come up with a storage system when you have a lot of storage. We have cameras running that watch the shop, including 4K cameras. Hence, there's a lot of data. So all that data is being streamed over to a Freenas box. So the Freenas box has all the data, not the VM. The VM itself is not very big. Matter of fact, it doesn't even have a drive. It has a 60 gig drive, and that runs all of it. That is not adequate to actually run a full... You're not going to get any data, any good time length of recording data if you have only 60 gig drive. That's just not reasonable. So we have all the data offloaded via networking over to the Freenas. So that's where our networking goes for all that. So for those of you that keep asking that question, that's how you do that. So. Yep, still use MediaWiki. What's my thought on Solarwinds Take Control? It's a nice free product that comes with Solarwinds. Pseudo-free. You pay it as part of your Solarwinds fees. It works. How many terabytes on Freenas? I don't know. I think one has 20 terabytes or 18 terabytes, and the other one has 12. So a decent amount. Maybe it has more than 12. And that's like the rated version. Cumulative, if it has added up hard drives, it's more, but they're in a redundant form, which means which number do you want? The bragging number, where you take the size of each drive and add it together to, I tell you I have 36 terabytes of storage, or the RAID Z1 or RAID Z2 of only 16 terabytes of storage and things like that. So Ceph and Gluster are cool. I'm not an expert on them. They're neat. People seem to like Ceph over Gluster based on what I've read in Reddit, but I can't answer that question in any intelligent manner. Does rice actually work to dry things? No, it does not. It does not work to dry things. What else we have? How's the weather outside? Nice. And I'm about to go join the weather outside shortly. That's why I'm actually coming towards the end of this. Seeing if anyone has anything else they want to ask, because I'm kind of ready to go outside. So, how about you, Marcus? You ready to go outside? I'm going to drag my son outside. He's been playing Borderlands 3, which I have too. Borderlands 3 has been pretty cool. And I'm just going to babble on and get off topic here if I spend too much time babbling on. This is continuous replication. That's the Disaster Republic plan. I have a video on this topic of how we do it, how the system automatically does the replication to the other servers. People asking why I don't have it in HA mode. It's because I don't need it. This is then a more practical way to do it, is set this up so we just have it hourly backing up. And all the data is backed up even more frequently than that. So we have hourly whole VM snapshots and then even more frequent data dumps and snapshots. How's the Zen server going? Or not Zen server, the Parrot server. It's going to be here a while. That's the nice thing about running Parrot in a VM. And since they switched to the latest version, there's a lot of updates, a whole lot. And I had ACPI problems with my laptop. I went back to using Pop! OS on my laptop, which, by the way, there's a new version going to be out soon because it's an Ubuntu release day is today. So that's awesome. New version of Ubuntu, and then therefore things that are based on Ubuntu also get new versions. So I'm happy, and I'll be upgrading my laptop soon to the latest and greatest version. I don't think there's any major features, but the new kernel update has some enhancements for the AMD Ryzen, so that makes me happy. Is there any other questions people have in here? Don't smoke beer. Don't smoke bees. All that stuff. Demineralize water. Kill Claptrap. Absolutely. Claptrap is bad. Claptrap just talks a lot. UniFi Video for new installs. UniFi Video, they are not updating the product anymore, so we're really not pushing it. We moved over to Synology. Sorry, UniFi, but when you dropped the product line, it didn't give us an alternate path that is easy for us to push clients to. We therefore dropped it. So it's sad. Load balance, yeah, there's some load balancing I think you can do in XCP-NG. So load balance. There's discussions on it. Spend some time in our forums to get some ideas of how to do it in here. There's instructions, there's discussions on how to do it and how to set it up. They get all kinds of fun things you can do on there. There we go. Yeah, here's how to do it. Host ARVM, they have an instruction on it. InZen Orchestra. To provide easy way to create plans, supervise the load balancing rules work on a CPU. So, creating a plan. They walk you through it here. Set up the CPU, set it up, and then it does migrations automatically. Before, during, after migration, blah, blah, blah. So, yes, absolutely you can do it. So, I'll drop that link in here. Yeah, they got rid of the advertisement. That was nice. You can extract the UniFi Protect. I've at least people say they can do it. I'm indifferent on it. People say there's ways to get it on there. I have no interest in doing it. It's not, I mean, there's hacky ways to do all kinds of things, but is there a hacky way to do it because you want to play with something, or is there a supported way because you want updates and support? So that's what you have to kind of weigh in there. So I'm sure if you Google it, maybe there's some Reddit that talks about it, but I don't have an interest in it. Yeah, I don't do any fresh installs on it, so. How come you use ConnectWise control but not the ConnectWise RMM suite? Nothing I looked at about the ConnectWise RMM suite looked interesting to me. It looks convoluted and complicated compared to SolarWinds. And anyone I talk to that even uses it talks about how much work it is and how they recommend hiring someone to come in and help you set up your ConnectWise control as a consultant on there. And it just kind of made me go, huh? It seems to like it does everything to the point of being so complicated because it tries to do everything. Yeah, I wish they were still doing more to support the UniFi video as well. Whatever. Core boot's kind of cool. Don't know much about it. I know what it is, but I've not done A/B testing to tell you. I love open source. I hope it's better, but I don't have a lot of answers on it. I want a Synology video without the NAS part. Then buy the Synology NVR box. Or buy a Synology and don't use the NAS. Do I deploy both MSP clients? Yeah. We don't do cookie cutter to the same everything. We look at what works for the client. And design a solution that fits what they do. That's just one of those things. I get it from the standpoint of companies that go, we 100% use this stack, rip and replace. And it was kind of funny. I got approached by a sales guy yesterday who works for those companies. They have a division that sells copiers. And he says, the problem is, not everybody wants to do the full stack, rip and replace. They just want someone to come out and help them with a project, or they're happy with the stack they have. They want a little thing added to it. That's where we have no problem being diverse and helping with different stacks for people. So, no, Protect doesn't work on Synology. I don't know. Continuum seems to be popular, but I don't know much about it. I remember looking at it forever ago, but if you would have looked at SolarWinds forever ago, it's not the same product. So we haven't had a reason to stop and reevaluate our product stack. So, and there's no easy way to do it because it's too hard to switch 1,000 computers this way or 1,000 computers that way as a demo and decide if you like something. You don't really know if you like any of them until you've used them for a while. And I do realize no matter which one you use, none of them work amazing. They all have shortcomings, especially when it comes to things like Windows Update. Yeah, it sucks. Windows Update's terrible. It's a Microsoft problem that everyone fights against, the way Windows will handle certain updates and tasks. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, I wish it did it better with this. But insert name of RMM tool and they wish it did better happens all the time. I never do dual boot, so. What are you talking about dual booting, Marcus? Since when did you get into that? I'm proud of you. Better to dance with devil you know, yeah. Raspberry Pi Zero for $5. Yeah, happy hunting. It's Pierce. Yes, make sure that you have the time zone set properly, because that will cause problems with the on there. There's actually ways to do booted and encryption and partitions, but it gets really convoluted and complicated. My solution when I need to run Windows is I run it inside of a virtual machine on an as-needed basis, which is almost never that I need to run it. But on the off chance I need to run it, my laptop has a lot of memory in it. So my desktop also has a lot of RAM too, but this is a 8th Gen i5 with 16 gigs of RAM, which is more than enough to run a virtual machine with dedicated 8 gigs of RAM to a Windows VM that allows me to run Windows as needed in a virtual stack without having to go outside of it. But I think we're going to come to the end of here. Yes, we covered Oracle going after people. on my Sunday Morning Linux review. So yeah, we covered it and we had a bunch of laugh because, Oracle doesn't have customers. Oracle has hostages. And they decided at some point in time that they wanted to make the legal department a profit center, and that's how Oracle is run. So they figured out the legal department comes up with ways they can do things like, look at IP addresses and say, hey, you download those proprietary extensions in VirtualBox. Therefore, you must be a business. And therefore, we must charge you accordingly. So thank you for all you subscribe. And my son is beckoning me to order him a pizza on the way home, for those of you that don't know. Favorite pizza? But Marcus wants a square pizza. So I already know what he wants. He wants the same thing he always wants. Deep, deep dish. Not deep dish, deep, deep dish. That's important. Deep, deep dish pizza. So Marcus, I'm going to order your deep, deep dish pizza. And is there anything else for the good of the class here? If not, I'm going to end the stream. I know there's a lag, so I said that there. I'm going to log into Little Caesars while I wait for your replies. Little Caesars, and order the deep, deep dish pizza. Ooh. So, all right. Anyone else? Any questions? Crispy pizza's good. And I think that's about the end of the live stream. Is there anything else? Anything else? Parmesan on the crust. Extra large. Can an edge router be configured to redirect internet access to another town? Well, yeah, if you put a VPN to another town on it, sure. You can, from the command line, do all kinds of fun things with the edge router, including connect it for VPNs and push those VPNs so your endpoint shows up somewhere else. That would be true. So awesome, and thank you very much for everyone that came out, and I'm going to end it. UniFi 16-port SFP, will it take RG45s? If you're talking about the 10 gig one, it's got RG45s and SFP plus on it, if that's the question. So, all right, later, ending the stream in 3, 2, smash the like button. Oh yeah, a lot of people didn't do that. There's 196 to you and 42 likes. So if you could take the time to smash the like button, whether you're watching this live or in post, that always helps the YouTube algorithm tell people you like the video. So, awesome. Oh, Dad say yeet. Yeet. Apparently I'm yeet. So I don't know how you use that word. Smash the like button and yeet. I'm yeeting out of here. I should dab or something, right? I don't know how that works. Yeet and dab. All right, end stream. I know how to do that. I know where that button is.